Off the Exit.
It is time for a very special edition of Off the Exit. It's Derek, it's Rob, and it is Kaz with you. It's the Exit 58 podcast, and boy, do we have a special guest on the line. A man who made headlines during the infamous 2016 presidential campaign. It is Ken Bone. Ken, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing really well. How about you guys?
Outstanding.
Ken, we got to thank you for making it so easy to kind of book you here, man. It was just kind of a nice, quick, easy reach.
Well, I'm not a real celebrity, so I'm not in the position to turn people down when they're like, hey, do you want to come on our show? Yeah, sure, why not?
All right, cool, man.
So, Ken, you're coming to us from, is it Illinois?
Yeah, southern Illinois, really close to St. Louis, Missouri, like just over the border.
So you're like from like flyover country, as the big timers of the East and West Coast like to say, myself excluded from that. But you're from flyover country, so I'm wondering, how did you come to be included or asked or booked to be one of the people to ask a question in the second debate during this past election cycle, which is, of course, where you garnered your fame? How the heck did that come about? Because you just seem like a regular guy. How did that happen?
Well, I am just a regular guy. It's totally random who they pick. The debate took place at Washington University in St. Louis, which is a very, very prestigious university here in the Midwest. It's like one of the top 10 in the nation. And they just, wherever the debate takes place, they call people that live in that area. I only live about 25 miles away, and I was one of the people that was randomly selected.
Well, who
come and be on stage?
Who called you?
It was the Gallup poll. I'm sitting on my couch on a Sunday afternoon watching cartoons, as I usually do, and I see a number come up on my phone. I didn't know who it was. It was just some number with a Nebraska area code. I figured it was a bill collector because I'm not good at paying my car payment on time.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm like, oh, I better pick it up and make some kind of excuse. And they said, it was the Gallup poll. Would you like to take a survey? And I'm like, well, sure, I don't friggin' care. I can watch Futurama and take surveys at the same time. So we're doing the survey, and we get to the end of it, and they say, based on your answers, you're technically an undecided voter, and we'd like to invite you to come participate in the debate. And I was like, huh, neat, okay.
Previously, were you, as far as like the political scene, were you active anywhere like in local politics? Like,
yeah,
is that an interest of yours, or?
No, I don't even go to HOA meetings.
Oh.
The only reason I pay so much attention to politics now is because they've seen me on television at a political thing, they think that I know a lot about politics. And since now I have like a public platform, I think it would be irresponsible of me to talk about politics without doing the research first.
So, if you do just a Google search of your name, Ken Bone, 10 billion things come up, and I'm sure you probably, I think anybody, I Google my own name to see what comes up, so I'm sure you do the same. One of the stories that came up was just basically, actually it was from a United Kingdom paper, The Independent, and talking about, how did Ken Bone become an American media sensation? And one of the things that they listed in the, in the article was that prior to going to the debate, you were apparently very pro-Trump or leaning very heavily Trump. I don't remember how they worded it. But then after the debate, you kind of were leaning towards Hillary or were very impressed by Hillary. What exactly was it during the debate that kind of maybe switched? Now, I don't know who you voted for, and you certainly don't have to tell us that. But what was it during that debate that kind of switched you from one side to the other? Again, if this story is accurate.
Well, it wasn't necessarily stuff just at the debate. The story's not really that accurate. I've never been on the Trump train. I was never like a MAGA hat wearing, show up to rallies guy. I just, through the primaries, I wasn't really watching the primaries that closely because I'm not a registered Republican. I didn't vote in the primaries.
Are you an independent or are you registered at all?
I am not party registered at all. I think political parties are stupid and terrible. I wish they didn't exist. But yeah, I wasn't really paying that close attention to the primaries. I just figured Ted Cruz or whoever would come through. And then when Donald Trump came through, when you looked at him at first glance, you're like, oh, a guy who's not a politician who says outrageous stuff and makes fun of actual politicians. That might be cool. And then he says, we're going to bring back coal jobs, and I work for a coal-fired power plant. I'm like, oh, that would be cool too. And then by the time the debate rolled around, I'm starting to do more research about it. I'm like, oh, this guy is actually kind of a dick. So that's what started pushing me away from him.
And I also noticed that even in some of your recent stuff, at KenBone18 or on your podcast, the Ken Bone Show, which we want to get to in a little bit here. But a lot of the stuff, it seems like you've bought into a lot of the, Donald Trump is racist, and here's why. Why is Donald Trump racist?
I'm not convinced that he's super racist. That he's that racist. I don't think he's any more racist than anybody else who's 70-something years old. To be perfectly honest, nobody. The line I keep using on my show is that nobody in the world is as evil as CNN says that Donald Trump is, and nobody's as good as Donald Trump says Donald Trump is. The truth is somewhere in the middle, and I like to take things one policy and one issue at a time. He does say a lot of racially insensitive stuff, but it's the same kind of thing you used to hear from your grandparents. He's just so unfiltered, and I guess the word that most people would use is unpresidential, that you don't hear that kind of thing. But when people say he's the most racist president ever, that's just patently false. Woodrow Wilson was a virulent racist who believed in the white man's burden. Andrew Jackson actively tried to exterminate Native Americans. So to use superlatives like he's the worst or he's the most racist, that's just silly.
Ken, I want to ask you about the reaction that the country's had post-election. Now, and I'm just talking about maybe certain age groups have had, it's been a little bit over the top more so than others. Do you think the reaction to Trump, merely the act of him winning the presidency, has been too much over the top as far as people saying their lives are over, things like that? Where do you think the reaction is, and was it justified?
It is ridiculously overblown. Every day you see, like on Twitter or any other media outlet, you're going to hear our democracy is crumbling in front of our eyes, and this is basically Germany in 1939. Well, in Germany in 1939, Hitler had already had his enemies executed. So that is not a good comparison. That is an extremely uneducated and irresponsible thing to say, especially if you have a platform where people listen to you.
So, Ken, how has this this sort of fame since the debate maybe shaped your life or changed your life? Obviously, you became a celebrity post this debate, and you're walking into work the next day like the rest of us do, 9 a.m., and getting your coffee at the or water at the water cooler. So what was the reaction to all of this that you became a star overnight?
Well, people at work have gotten to the point now where they don't really care anymore. They might like to hear stories from the road or whatever every once in a while, or hear what I've been up to lately. But mostly they just want me to get back to work. So everybody I work with I've known for several years now, so they kind of got over the shock of it pretty quickly. It's strangers that really get into it because they don't know me personally.
Yeah.
All they know is me from TV and radio and podcasts and things. So it's more fascinating to them.
So do you like the spotlight?
Everybody that knows me in real life knows that I'm boring.
Do you like the spotlight? That's what that's kind of getting at here. Like, do you like the spotlight, or would you prefer sort of like that quiet? Like, we looked at your Twitter account, you've got 195,000 followers there, Ken. So your phone must be blowing up all the time.
Yeah, well, I have the notifications for Twitter turned off because it kills my battery about every 20 minutes.
I imagine so. We wish you had. We wish you had your problems.
It's crazy. But yeah, I don't really pay. I don't really get that into it. I try not to let it feed my ego too much, but it is fun. I like being, doing radio and doing TV and all that kind of stuff because it's a good time. The only reason you didn't see Chewbacca Mom or one of those other folks stay in the spotlight forever is because they didn't like it. I like doing this kind of stuff, and it doesn't bother me. They didn't like doing it, so they quit answering the phone, and that's their right. If I didn't like doing it, I'd quit using Twitter, and I'd change my phone number, and you wouldn't have to hear about me anymore.
We're talking with Ken Bone. Ken, full disclosure, I came into this interview really not liking you at all, so I want to be honest with you. But I want to say, so far, I kind of like all your answers. You're starting to swing me to the other way here. But so one of the things that kind of did irk me, and again, I'm just being honest here, is you kind of milked the whole 15 minutes of fame thing, and maybe I do the same thing. I don't know. I've never been invited to be to a debate.
Not yet, at least. Not
yet, and ask a question. But the whole, the Bone Zone own thing and, crowdsourcing and doing all this other kind of stuff. It just seemed to me like you were like kind of, trying to squish as much as you could out of 15 minutes of fame. Is there anything that you've done along the lines, whether it's merchandising or throwing yourself out there or whatever, that you kind of wish, hey, maybe I should have reined it in a little bit, or do you say, hey, you know what, I'm only going to get one shot at this, I might as well play it up?
I only did two things that profited me in any way. I did a spokesmanship gig with Izod, and I sold T-shirts. And as far as all the other stuff that you're saying, like, that I milked it or whatever, let's go back to why am I on this show today? How did you get a hold of me?
Yeah, well, exactly.
No, answer the question. How did I get on this show today?
Because I was very critical of you, and they said, hey, let's get Ken Bone on the show, see if he would do it. And here you are.
Because you contacted me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Every single piece of media you have ever seen me on, ever, every TV show, every radio show, every podcast, is because they called me. I have not ever asked one time to be on anything, ever.
Well, wait a minute. Who made up Bone Zone? Who made that up?
That's my grandma's Wi-Fi network name. I'm not kidding.
That she made up, or one of your perverted, cousins made up?
My name is Bone, jackass. What did you think she was going to make it?
Well, I figured your grandma wasn't a pervert, but okay. So one of the other things, kind of along that same lines, is we read stories after you kind of, you attained your fame and so forth. There were kind of porn companies trying to contact you, and Can Soda wanted to set up a private cam and do all sorts of kinky stuff. You had your Reddit thing that was kind of out there where people found out that you were commenting on, I guess, porn actresses or what have you. Did you take advantage of any of that stuff?
No porn company ever called me.
What about Can Soda?
They never contacted me.
No.
Every time you see a meme come along, you will see a story exactly like that, so that this exact thing will happen, so that Cam Soda will get lots of free publicity. They mentioned that deal on the Today Show. Yeah. Nobody from Cam Soda ever called me.
That's disappointing.
They just put out a press release saying that they called me, so that people would talk about it.
Do you kind of wish that they maybe did, though? I mean, that's, who gets an opportunity to do that, though? You're a pretty open guy. I feel like you might do that.
Who gets an opportunity to do that?
I said
anybody who makes a Cam Soda account.
Yeah, but I mean, you're Ken Bone, though. Like the media darling, like the hero of the debates. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and when I was able to raise tens of thousands of dollars for charity, and I got over 5,000 people to register to vote, why would I debase myself, pretending to make a porn film for a couple of bucks?
I don't know. I'm not here to judge you on that, but I mean, good for you.
Kind of sounds like you are, honestly.
No, I'm just asking a question because that was something that I read, and I certainly know not to believe everything in the news, but that's why I wanted to. Since you're here, I might as well ask you about it because that was kind of an interesting thing. Now you do have a podcast now, the Ken Bone Show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And who is Josh? Who is your co-host, Josh? And how do you know him?
Josh Burkett's been my best friend since junior high school, and when we started the show, we've just recorded episode 18 last night. It's at SoundCloud.com/The Ken Bone Show. We started it most of the reason that people seemed to like me in the beginning is because I was like the everyman that showed it was okay to talk about politics without getting hateful and weird. Well, if I'm going to be the anchor of the show, that means I have to put a lot of work into researching the stories, and I didn't want it to be like me just telling you what I thought about the news every week. So I wanted to bring in Josh, who's had some radio experience before, to maintain that everyman aspect. Like, he doesn't look up the stories beforehand. I just kind of bounce the stuff off of him, and we do a back and forth.
So, Ken, I got to ask. We're gonna before we wrap this thing up here. Where is the infamous red sweater right now?
It's in Izod's archives in New York City. They gave Greater St. Louis Honor Flight. Greater St. Louis Honor Flight's one of my favorite charities. They gave $10,000 to that charity for me to give them the sweater.
Very cool.
And now it's sitting next to Michael Jackson's moonwalk shoes.
Oh, very cool.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Ken, real quick before we let you get out of here, we the last time we recorded a show, we actually talked about Oprah running for president. What are your thoughts on that, and is it a good idea?
It's a horrible idea. Everybody is... how many people like Donald Trump? Well, according to polls, it's about 38% of people think he's doing a good job. So why do we think that another billionaire with no political experience would be better? Because she agrees with more of your stuff on politics? I think we need someone who actually has leadership experience outside of being famous on television. What was, Oprah's big thing 10 years ago was The Secret. If you really believe it, it'll happen. What a load of crap that was. I don't want that person to be my president.
Ken, you seem like a happy-go-lucky guy, and I definitely appreciate you joining us today. You seem like a type of guy, if we're on a road trip together, I could do it like a really funky either-or with you. Would you be willing to submit to a quick either-or before we say goodbye?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Either-or. You can either mouth kiss a man or suck on his big toe. Which do you do?
Mouth kiss. I'm pretty much guaranteed not to get some kind of strange fungus from kissing a guy on the mouth. And it's 2018. If you judge me, you just get your name dragged through the mud on TV.
Touche.
It's a great answer.
That's a fantastic answer. Ken, thanks a lot for joining us here on the Exit 58 podcast. Again, at KenBone18. Also, one more time on the podcast, Ken, where can they find it?
That's on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/The Ken Bone Show.
All right, Ken, thank you very much for joining us.
No problem.
Thanks, Ken. Take care, bud. Wow, so there you go.
Yeah, the big guy.
Now, see, Rob, you and I were doing, we had a pre-production writers meeting.
Yeah,
and
we had to.
I said, I am still skeptical that this is going to happen. I figured, not that we're trying to interview we're trying to get Tom Brady on, but at the same time, I mean, who the heck are we? We're just three guys sitting around,
That was an Anderson Cooper style interview, though, especially the toe sucking question. I feel like Anderson would have skated that question when he had Ken Bone on. So.
We might as well make it worth his while.
Yeah.
That was the best question he was asked.
Yeah, but I thought it was a good interview, though. Don't you think? Ken, bravo to you, man. You got your stuff together.
Yeah, he did his thing. I think he tackled some of the hard issues head on.
He wasn't wimpy at all.
No,
which
you
kind of look at the guy and say, he's probably wimpy. But he's not wimpy at all. Listen,
very well spoken.
Yeah. And listen, Rob, as you alluded to, the guy's done about 1,000 of these by now. Probably interviewed for everything from CNN to the Exit 58 podcast, everything in between. But yeah, no, that was fun. So good for him. And he recorded his 18th episode of his podcast. I listened to some of the episode 17 earlier. Lots of politics stuff on there, but maybe worth a listen if you like that kind of thing. There's so many more things I wanted to ask him about, though. What sort of underpants does he wear? How much does he weigh?
Well, there's always
When's
a time.
the last time he did it?
We can always bring him back.
Can we bring him back? No,
well, you floated those questions out. Probably
not anymore. Not anymore.
I think that's
maybe
done.
Yeah,
but yeah,
use your imagination on that stuff. So
those will be on the Easter eggs when you're.
All right. Well, good job there, DJ. So you're still on the clock for our next interview. So get busy.
Whoever that will be. If you want to check in with the Exit 58 podcast, we'll take interview requests. exit58podcast@gmail.com. Until next time. See ya.
For more of the Exit 58 podcast, head to SoundCloud.com and search Exit 58 Podcast.